regardless of whether it's from a different timeline or not, I still enjoyed it because it's still a representation of Logan and Wolverine. I do have an issue with all these multi versions of characters, and we're doing obviously our separate video on the reactions to San Diego Comic-Con with Robert Downey Jr. coming back to play Dr. Doom as a variant of Tony Stark. It is messy. So Deadpool and Wolverine made $6 trillion gazillion this weekend, and we are happy to report that these two parents somehow got out of our respective homes to watch this movie, and we are going to review it right here on Nerdy and Nice. So welcome everybody to the show. We are very excited to have you. Our first official movie review on this podcast. And what a movie for us to do it with, right, Lacey? We saw the movie together,
yes,
and now we will have a chance to give our full spoiler thoughts on what we watched.
I am very proud that I was able to get to the movie theater to see this. It was one of the ones that we had talked about for weeks now that I wanted to see in the movie theater. Still hoping for Twisters. Still hoping for it, guys. And looking back in a couple weeks, I was like, I would definitely see Twisters over Deadpool. And I know we had a little bit of a joke to we're like, do we want to see Twisters? But we were like, no, we got to see this one.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things supposedly that you could be spoiled on. So, yeah.
What if we did?
It was fun.
I don't know when Twisters is doing well. I don't know when it's coming out on digital or whatever, but I know we keep talking about these watch parties, but I think it would also be cool to watch a movie for the first time on a watch party. If that's possible.
Yeah, maybe we do that.
Because imagine we watch a movie and one of us can't stand it and the other one's into it, and the watch party is just a complete disaster. That could be fun, but
I don't think it would ever be a disaster. We'd have fun no matter what.
I agree. We always have fun, but well, most of the time. But Pedro Pascal's having fun because he posted our first mission. The launch of the Fantastic Four filming comes out next year. They've started filming for the next attempt at the Fantastic Four. Great cast. So not much to this. So it's just more of our warm up here before we get into our Deadpool review. But any thoughts on this?
I like seeing Pedro Pascal so happy. It's always great seeing him having a great time. Vanessa Kirby's hugging his head, so super pumped for some romance on screen. Let's go. Let's get the comic book movie romance that
Reed Richards, Sue Storm,
one of the best couples ever in comic book. And then we're also getting Lois Lane and Superman too. It's going to be an amazing year for comic book romance.
Yes.
I'm all for it. I think the other two guys look great. Joseph Quinn is having a year himself. Man, is he having a time. I think that they're
cast for sure.
Absolutely. And I think they're hinting clearly that they're going to show up at San Diego.
It definitely has buzz about it. So I'm interested to hear more about it. I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan. I didn't see the second attempt. I saw the first one with Jessica Alba.
Oh, the Josh Trank one that tanked his
and
Boba Fett
Michael
movie.
Chiklis, yeah, and Chris Evans was Johnny Storm. I didn't really like that one. It's there's been some of the characters that they're having a hard time transitioning to movies, and Punisher had been one for a while, and Fantastic Four is certainly one of them.
I liked the Jessica Alba Chris Evans one.
You did?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I liked that one. I thought it was fun.
That's cool. I
didn't like the Miles Teller one.
I didn't see that one.
That's the one I was talking about, the Josh Trank one that he was supposed to have a Star Wars movie for Boba Fett, and he even had a panel at Celebration, was going to be in, and then that movie tanked, and then he lost it.
So we'll see what Marvel does with this, but a movie that certainly is not tanking is Deadpool and Wolverine. So Lacey, let's throw it to our review of the movie.
Let's go.
Guess we're getting that team up after all.
Oh, we're just getting started, Bubba.
All right, so let's talk Deadpool. First off, Lacey and I saw Deadpool together. Deadpool and Wolverine.
We did.
We went to our local theater with the nice seats and the ceiling was vibrating. The sound was so
The,
like
s- the
big.
seats vibrate too because it's the
Seats,
Dolby Digital like 4. It's not the 4DX. It's like something else. It's like a step above regular, but it's not IMAX.
whatever it is. That I was looking at the ceiling tiles. I was like, oh man,
Yeah,
because
it's like. "Zzz."
our theater's been around the block a few times.
I've been going to that movie theater since I saw Phantom Menace in that movie theater.
Oh, me
I
too. Yeah,
saw like that theater's been there forever.
yeah.
I forget what it was before Lowe's, actually.
It was Sony.
Was it Sony?
No, it
Then
was Sony theaters, then Lowe's, then AMC.
then AMC. It
Yeah,
was Lowe's when I was growing up.
yeah.
It was Sony before that.
But yeah, we're here to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, which has honestly doesn't need this review for any help. But
No.
this movie made on a reported $200 million budget, obviously plus marketing, which we'll get into that in a minute. But it made 200 million in this opening weekend, plus for a total of 440 million worldwide already.
Yeah,
So
it's the biggest opening for an R-rated movie, right?
just absolutely crazy amount of money. And because we have kids and it's hard to get away, we saw
Mhm.
a 9:45 a.m. showing, and that was still full.
It was
So
packed in there. Yeah.
yeah, and let's get into it though. So you may have watched our non-spoiler out of the theater reaction, but now we're going to get into it for another 20 minutes or so. Full spoiler review on Deadpool and Wolverine. So if you haven't watched it yet, get out. But we love you anyway. But here we go. So Lacey, Deadpool and Wolverine, big things to come out of this are a ton of cameos, a revival of the Wolverine character, but from a different timeline. Because I know one thing I've seen from people who even liked this movie is they were upset that it undoes Logan. And at the very beginning of this movie, it makes it very clear it does not undo Logan.
It doesn't at all.
We
It
see the
doesn't.
skeleton of that Wolverine that Deadpool uses to kill dudes with.
Mhm.
So that's how
All
this movie starts.
216 bones, he says.
Yeah,
Number
exactly.
6.
So out of the gate, they hit us right in the face with the humor and bloodshed, and it
With
reminds
instinct.
you, with NSYNC playing, and it reminds you this is a Deadpool movie. Even the first time Deadpool gets the Marvel intro, Ryan Reynolds is speaking over it, breaking the fourth wall. So I'll start just by my initial thoughts are that this is a very Deadpool movie. It fits right in with what was happening at 20th Century Fox, which they took no hesitation to take some friendly jabs at, but ultimately, a thank you for it getting this franchise going. But I think this might be my favorite Deadpool movie.
It's definitely my favorite Deadpool movie. The first one obviously is nostalgic because of the leaked footage and they weren't going to do it and it kind of helped it along to make it happen. And it was so original that there were so many movies that came after it that were trying to copy it like Suicide Squad, but
Mm-hmm.
this one I think is my favorite. It has the most heart. I'll explain stuff that didn't really land with me, but overall, I think this is one of the best, if not the best, superhero movie I've seen. Uh, Recently, anyway, from Marvel. I feel like it reinvigorated my love for superhero movies because after a while, it got kind of like, okay, here's another one.
Yeah.
And honestly, while the humor was there, I was laughing the whole time. I strongly believe that it wouldn't have been as good if it didn't have Hugh Jackman in it. If it wasn't
I agree.
Deadpool and Wolverine, it wouldn't have done as well. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with that because even though Deadpool has an arc and there is emotional moments with the character
Mhm.
as he's trying to save his, found family.
His people, yeah.
Yeah, his people. Wolverine is the heart of the movie. And I found that to be interesting because going into this, I was wondering, and I think I said this in our out of the theater reaction, like, are we just going to get a Wolverine that is in Deadpool's style where there isn't a lot of what we know of this Wolverine, and it's more of like he has to mold himself to Deadpool's way, and it's not the case at all. And Hugh Jackman at 55 years old, he's been playing this character for 25 years, if you include the filming of the first X-Men. And I would put this up there as one of his best Wolverine performances.
I agree. The one thing I'm gonna say is I wish they would let him be fit like he was in the originals and not dehydrated and over the top steroided out like he is in this one. Like
Yeah.
he's so fit in this one that it looks unbelievable. Whereas I feel like in the earlier Wolverines, like he was very, very big and bulky, but he wasn't like so defined and like again, like he looks dehydrated. Like
The
he needs a little water.
The only other Wolverine where he looked that ripped was the Wolverine, which is the one that takes place in Japan, I believe.
Sure.
But I agree. Like the first X-Men, he even had to, at the beginning of filming, he had to use like fake sideburns because he was a late casting and he wasn't jacked. That was the least jacked he ever
He
was.
looked more real to me. Like
Yeah.
what I get the joke at the end with the whole abs where like Deadpool kind of looks over and it was hilarious. It landed. I laughed. But at the same time, that's crazy that they're
Mm.
making him work out like that. Or maybe it's his own personal want to look like that.
He
But
was eating up to 8,000 calories a day preparing for the
insane.
role. So
Insane.
he was doing a lot of bulking, but also clearly a lot of fat shedding. So that's a tough thing to do. And
Yeah.
I know people use steroids, and I tweeted the joke about it because he's 55 years old and he
Mhm.
probably does have supplements that they give him. But either way,
And chefs and personal trainers and
yeah,
yeah.
all stuff. And either way, he put it all back together after saying goodbye to this role 7 years ago. And
Mhm.
I always felt like when people say goodbye to things and then try to come back, they can't recapture the magic. And he
Mm.
did. He certainly did. And I know it's a little weird because this technically isn't the Logan that we met in 2000's X-Men that we lost in 2017's Logan.
Mhm.
Um, it's this different Wolverine, just like all the other
The
Wolverines
worst in the
we saw.
timeline.
Yeah, so we got to see the 5'3" Wolverine that is in the comics. That's the actual
Mhm.
height of Wolverine. So that was funny to see, and all these other
Mhm.
variants of Wolverine.
Mhm.
But regardless of whether it's from a different timeline or not, I still enjoyed it because it's still a representation of Logan and Wolverine. I do have an issue with all these multi versions of characters, and we're doing obviously our separate video on the reactions to San Diego Comic-Con with Robert Downey Jr. coming back to play Doctor Doom
Mhm.
as a variant of Tony Stark. It is messy, and even parts of this movie, I'm like, wait, so whose timeline is this? And I'll admit I was getting a little confused. I don't know if
They're
you were.
getting very much into the comics, which is like Earth 10005,
Yes. Yeah.
Earth 319, Earth. And this really kind of kicked off, I would say, with WandaVision and with Spider-Man
Doctor
and
Strange.
with Doctor Strange and Loki. Those kind of movies were all setting this up. But it's gotten to a point that no one is able to follow what's going on. Even people in the comics are like, and like you said, we'll get to the Robert Downey Jr. stuff. Even people that love comics, online when the announcement was made, I saw 6 people reference 7 different comic books. Like nobody really knows
Yeah.
where it's going. And it gets really confusing. I do appreciate, and we've discussed this, I feel like for years because we kind of compare Marvel to Star Wars a lot with TRB. But I feel like they're using the multiverse in a way to bring people back all the time and give fan service. Like they're using it as a
Well,
crutch.
that's
Um,
yeah.
which is fine. I thought that this movie was jam-packed with Easter eggs, not just from the original Deadpool movies, but from all the Fox movies and Marvel movies and whatnot. I saw a tweet from someone that was retweeted by Ryan Reynolds that said that they had appreciated how this movie was basically a love letter to all the Fox movies, and it didn't make fun of them the whole time. It honored them and where they came from. And I appreciated that because I feel like oftentimes it's easy to say, you know, this movie was terrible. This movie sucked. Like kind of like Ryan Reynolds does with Green Lantern. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, even if it was a movie that you didn't like and didn't enjoy and maybe it didn't hit right, still a lot of work went into that. People still acted in it, produced
Yep.
it, did the visual effects, do all these things. So I don't think people realize that when they kind of mock movies all the time, there's more to just not liking it, which is fine. But yeah, so overall the movie I thought worked really well. I thought the cameos were amazing because oftentimes in these
Did you have a
Marvel
favorite
movies,
cameo?
Favorite cameo? I think the one that was the most jarring for me and over the top ridiculous, but somehow worked was Channing Tatum
That was my favorite.
as Gambit. His accent, the way he owned it, like the big joke of like how he was gonna, obviously background information for people that don't know is he was supposed to get a movie and it was, you know, about to start filming, and then it got put on pause, and then this happened and that happened and it never really happened. So the point that he keeps making those comments in the movies, like, oh well, maybe someday I'll show up, or maybe someday something will happen, it made me laugh. And he was wearing, I think, the Gambit shirt that he wore in San Diego Comic-Con, and then he also wore it to San Diego Comic-Con this past year, like when they did like, it's very much paying respect and kind of poking fun a little bit at this whole Marvel movie process.
Yeah.
And I feel like it would be funny if Star Wars did that, speaking from a Star Wars fan's perspective, because there's just been so many misses on that side. That being said, with this, I thought I was happy to see Jennifer Garner because I think she's great. I think Wesley Snipes was great. I wasn't sure how Daphne Keane ended up at the end because nobody else was there, just her.
Right.
But I thought she died. So it's like, is this a different Daphne Keane? Is this a different timeline? Is she not in the void? Is she? And that's where it gets confusing because you have all these characters that were like, we got sent to the void. So does that mean they're erased from all timelines? Or is it just that one variant that's been sent there? Because Loki's the same thing.
Yeah.
When Loki went to the void, it was Tom Hiddleston's Loki and then all these different Lokis that were sent there. And you were like, okay, so no Lokis exist in the timeline? Because these were just one of each character.
Yeah. It feels like whoever we saw at the end is basically who they want to continue on in the MCU with.
That's what I figured.
So I really enjoyed Channing Tatum's take on Gambit because the accent sounds over the top, but that if you watch the X-Men animated show, you can't say cartoon anymore. He is a very Cajun and it's
only
all
that
there
people from Louisiana, New Orleans sound like that.
Yeah, so I thought he looked right out of the animated series, and his physicality was great. The special effects were wonderful. Like that was a pleasant surprise, especially because, you know, whether it was a Gambit movie or he was going to be in a future X-Men movie at the time, because you know, with the first couple of X-Men movies, you didn't see all of the characters that you're used to from the comics and the animated series. Like Jubilee had a screen cameo. People were like, "Oh, was that Gambit?" And then they did X-Men Origins with Taylor Kitsch playing Gambit, and people didn't really love that. So they were like, "Oh, they're gonna bring him in. They're gonna bring him in and do it," and it didn't work out.
Had like 6 Quicksilvers.
Yeah, so he got to have his chance, and I love that. I loved seeing X-23 again. I thought she was great, so I hope they do keep her around.
The sunglasses was such an awesome touch when she put the little kid sunglasses on. Going back to what you just said, the visual effects in this movie overall were amazing. From
the finger faces,
the fingers into people's heads that were like coming out, which is done by ILM, of course.
Yeah.
Killer. It was something that stood out in this movie compared to other films, like the de-aging of Jon Favreau. It looked like they did a good, nice job there. And there were just like a ton of Easter eggs. Like if you looked around Tony's office in the beginning, which was clearly Tony's office, is not Happy's office. There were so many things. Like there was a picture of Tom Holland that was tucked behind something else, so you couldn't see Tom Holland because then they'd have to get, you know, agreement from Sony that they're using him.
Likeness,
yeah. And you know, the Forbes magazine with Pepper Potts on it, the proof that Tony has a heart thing, all that stuff is all there.
Yeah.
Which was nice. I liked all the little jabs and jokes and fourth wall breaks. I thought Matthew McFadden was great.
He was good
as Paradox. He does make, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but it was very clearly done. He does make an Easter egg for Pride and Prejudice in the movie.
Oh boy.
There's a part where Deadpool's talking to him and they're talking about how he wants to matter. And he says, Deadpool's like, I just want to make a difference. And Matthew McFadden goes, I know. And that's such a deliberate part in Pride and Prejudice when Keira Knightley says that she likes to walk. And he goes, I know.
Oh
And it
my.
was like, and I was like, this has to be on purpose. There's no way that this is a throwaway. Like either they wrote it that way or Matthew McFadden did it on purpose or it's a Matthew McFadden thing because I immediately was like, oh my God, Mr. Darcy's talking to me. But he was wild. He was very,
He was
very
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
They brought back the original woman at the end that was flirting with, what was she flirting with? Oh, Peter.
Oh
Pete.
yes. Yeah.
She was from Loki, so they brought her back. I mean, the whole Deadpool scene was cool. I think it was like a little much. Like
I love Dogpool. That was great.
Dogpool was amazing, and I laughed at like the Ryan with no regeneration, like flowing hair, ear hug.
Oh,
Ryan,
Nice Pool.
nice pool, yeah, he
Gave
was
them the
funny.
Honda SUV or
The Odyssey,
minivan.
Honda
Yeah.
Odyssey, yeah. I think those jokes were funny, but something that really stuck out to me was the soundtrack.
Oh, it's great.
So many good songs in this movie, like made the scenes.
On the way home from the theater, I was listening to Like a Prayer.
I was listening to "Bring 'Em Out" by T.I.
There
because
you
that
go.
song's amazing. So here's the things that didn't land because we've been talking a lot
Wait,
about warped. And again,
wait, I have a big question with you
sure.
on something that is clearly foreshadowing, which is, and he keeps asking about it in the movie, is this shot between Deadpool and Thor. And it looks like Thor's crying and Deadpool's dying. And
oh yeah.
so is that going to be in Secret Wars? Like, are we going to see Deadpool die in Secret Wars or something like that, or Doomsday? The
Well,
first.
that is a different timeline. So I don't think that's going to happen because first of all, Chris Hemsworth in that shot didn't look right. Like it looks like they pulled him aside from something else and were like, "Hey, can you shoot this real quick?" Like it didn't look
Maybe.
right, and I think they did it on purpose. Like it looked a little off.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is, like you said, a little bit of a point to, hey, he's going to end up with the Avengers because the whole movie is him wanting to be in the Avengers and
Right.
him wanting to save his people. So
Right.
I feel like that's a big like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All the X-Men and Deadpool are going to be going to the Avengers. And I'm going to laugh so hard when Deadpool's just mocking everyone especially him and Star-Lord is going to be ridiculous
Yeah.
because Star-Lord is kind of playing that role right now as like the jokey guy.
Yep.
But oh man, when they get together, it's going to be hilarious. And I have a feeling they're going to hate each other because they're both the jokey guys.
I can see
Yeah.
Star-Lord getting like jealous, sort of like he got jealous of Thor.
Yeah.
Well, I know you want to get into things that were negative, but
Not negative, didn't land for me.
Okay. But I want to say for another big positive, like I thought the fight scenes were amazing.
Oh, so good. And they really let them shine, the fight.
Wolverine versus Sabretooth, as quick as that was badass. And I really liked even Deadpool fighting Wolverine and like their fight in the car as
Oh my God, it was so good.
they just neither one of them stopped and it was just like crazy. And I think they pushed that just enough. The whole, Wolverine telling him to shut the F up and them fighting. I'm like, if they did that one more time, I would have been like, this is too much. Like Levy knew when to take his foot off the gas on that and finally bring the two of them together. Because if it spent much more time with him getting annoyed with him, I would have started getting annoyed.
Yeah, the tilt down to the coexist sticker with blood all over it.
Yeah,
It was
right.
very one.
Yeah.
And then of course, like the pan down to Deadpool like tied up in all those seatbelts.
Wolverine
like,
won. Yeah.
That you're literally looking at it going, how did this even happen? That
Yeah.
he's in all these seatbelts because it makes no sense.
Yeah, my headcanon is that Wolverine somehow knocked him out and then just wrapped
tied
him
him
up in all the seatbelts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into what didn't land for me because I got to be honest. And there's a couple things. One, I don't think the Lady Deadpool Blake Lively thing landed. I felt like that was so built up to be this big thing. And she said maybe 3 lines and then died. Like she didn't do anything. And I felt like it was such a focus in the trailers. And oh my God, it's happening. Is it not happening? Oh my gosh. Which now we realize before the movie came out when Sean Levy and Ryan were posting pictures of Blake, like clearly it's Blake. Like they were just being straightforward.
That's why
Maybe they felt like,
maybe
they felt bad because they were like, it's really not that big of a deal.
It does make sense that it was her because of how quick it was. If they had
and he references her like 2 or 3 times before it happens.
like the real Blake Lively, yeah.
Yeah,
But
Gossip Girl and
but
yeah.
if Lady Deadpool like was some sort of integral part and she was going to be joining the MCU the way like Pepper Potts did, or the way like, you know, say like Wonder Woman comes into the Superman Batman movie and you're like, all right, we're building here, then
Mhm.
I would have been like, and it's Blake Lively doing this. But the fact that it was a quick thing, I'm like, that's cool, that's okay.
Yeah. He let her be in it without it, you know, her taking
She didn't even
over
take
and
to take her mask off or anything. It was like people were like, "Oh, that's Blake Lively," and then be like, "Okay, got it."
she has a good walk though. Um,
Great walk.
are you happy it wasn't Taylor Swift?
Yes, of course.
Are you happy Taylor Swift wasn't in this movie at all?
Yeah, I just don't need Taylor Swift like infecting everything, and it's just like whether you love her or not, like you don't need to be everywhere. It's
Mhm.
just like So yes, I was cool with that.
I just thought of something I really loved, but I'll keep going with the things I didn't like.
E
Uh,
Emma
the
Corrin was pretty good. I gotta say, she thought she was pretty cool.
She was awesome, and I loved the joke about, like, typical Gen Z just talking about trauma, like, go to therapy, basically, like, um, the other thing that really didn't hit for me, and it really kind of, I would say, brought the movie down for me, was the Vanessa relationship.
Hmm.
I didn't care about it. I don't care about her. I don't think she's a good character. I feel like in the first 2 movies, she had more of an impactful role, and in this movie, it was just like she was this baggage. You know what I mean? It was just like,
Mm,
"Oh, I wanna be with her," but she didn't really seem interested. Like, it was weird. The dynamic was off compared to the first 2 films where she's in it
hmm.
so clearly, and it just seemed like the actress didn't wanna be there slash did her character doesn't like Deadpool.
Yeah, I think it's hard for any relationship to eclipse the bromance of literally Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, but also Wolverine and Deadpool. That anything they threw at us, even if they made it a forefront piece of the movie, I think it would have fell flat. So Sean Levy's probably like cutting his losses, and he's like, "Look, that's still going to be a part of this because her just vanishing makes no sense." But it's not going to be priority for us, and I'm
I
kind of glad
understand
it
that,
isn't. I'm kind of glad it isn't, to be honest.
but he had more chemistry with both Peter and Big Al than Vanessa.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And I felt like it was a bit of a throwaway. Like, they were like, "Eh, we don't really wanna get into this.
I
Bye."
I was okay with that though because I feel like the movie didn't need it. Like,
I don't think the movie needed it.
yeah,
But, if that was the case, I wish she just wasn't in it. Like, they made focuses on her at the points that I was like, "No one cares. No one cares
yeah,
about this character." Like,
yeah,
she's, I don't know, not likable.
yeah,
Like, I cared
yeah.
more about Lady Deadpool and, like, Nice Pool than I did about Vanessa, and Vanessa's now been in 3 films. Like, I didn't care about her. I don't think she added anything to the film.
When Nice Pool's like regeneration, he's just oh god, that was a big
Um
one out of Austin Powers too. Just using someone else's
Oh,
skill.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. What really hit for me, away from Vanessa, was Chris Evans. Man, when he showed up, they made it look like Captain America, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's Captain America."
Hmm.
And then he does the whole flame on, and I was like, "This is even better than it being Captain America."
Yeah.
And then obviously the end credit scene where he's like, "I didn't get him killed. I'm gonna prove to you why." And he goes off on this, like, honestly, one of the best monologues we've ever had in a
It was
Marvel
great.
movie.
It was great because I believed him in that scene. I was like, "Oh, Deadpool's just pinning it on this guy. This is classic Deadpool." And then it
Yeah,
turns out he was talking all that trash. That's such a good bit.
yeah, yeah.
I think one thing that needs to be recognized is the bankability of Ryan Reynolds in how he is able to um, keep young men interested in this stuff, even though he's a guy of 48 years old.
Mhm.
Women of all ages still love Ryan Reynolds, whether they're in their 40s and they met him first with Van Wilder,
Oh my
or
god, nice pull when he turns the camera and just goes, "The proposal."
the proposal. Right?
"Sir, what?"
But young women are still very much into Ryan Reynolds, and he's just like, and older guys are like me, like he's our generation. Like I'm over 40 now, and he's making it like known that it's not too late to still be cool and have and be a lead and have a good time in these types of movies. And he's transcending all of these demographics in such a smart, good way. He knows how to. I know sometimes people get tired of Ryan Reynoldsing, and I completely understand that. And he even jokes about it himself in this movie by how many shut the F ups were there from Wolverine. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I want to say that to him too. But he is very good at this type of marketing. And I would love to know the marketing budget for this movie, because they checked every single box and they did it so well. And Ryan Reynolds' finger is so on the pulse of how to get audiences interested in the party. You don't want to miss this party. And he really made it feel that way, to the point where I'm like, did this dude use like Mint Mobile money to help like market this thing? Because I would love for every Star Wars movie to be marketed exactly like this
They
movie
did the
was.
puppy interviews. They did the hot ones. They did the Vanity Fair lie detector tests, which they asked Ryan if he leaked the footage from Deadpool, and he's like, "Oh, next question." And then the guy's like, "Answer it," and he's like, "Fine, I didn't do it. I helped someone," or something like that. Which they're not going to get him in trouble at this point. What he's made them, they're now. Marvel announced today that they have made over $30 billion with the Marvel movies. They've done 35 movies, $30 billion, and Deadpool is the one that pushed him over that. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah, it's insane. They did everything. And then they redid the meme of Wolverine looking at the photo with Wolverine.
Yeah.
That everybody always uses. And then they did it with Deadpool looking at Wolverine, looking at himself. Oh my, he just gets it. And he made so many jokes throughout the movie that are definitely internet jokes, but it's not too far that it will be dated years from now. Like they're still fresh.
I agree. Yeah.
But the NSYNC thing at the beginning, that was done for my age group. I've no doubt in my mind that was done for women like me.
That was good.
Because I immediately was like, oh my God, they're doing this. And it was hilarious.
Yeah, and I actually went into this movie expecting it to be, because we see them jumping through the ring for the timelines, and I think I expected this to like do something big to impact the Marvel timelines and stuff, and it definitely did some things, but I don't think it had the impact that I thought it would, and I'm actually glad it didn't.
It could do anything.
Yeah, it can do anything, and they did, blur some lines, and now like, oh, so this is going to be Logan, and the other Logan's still dead, so but he's going to be over here now playing till he's 90. They kept joking he's going to be Wolverine till he's 90, and with the success of this movie, I don't think this was the last time Hugh Jackman's going to play Wolverine. So
he quit until they announced this. That's what he said in an interview. He's like, he had quit Wolverine until they were like, hey, Deadpool's now Disney. And he was like, oh, man.
Yeah, or Deadpool hadn't come out yet, the first Deadpool, and he had already said he was done playing Wolverine. And then the Wolverine jokes in Deadpool, like he was like, oh.
No. He said in an interview that it was Fox. It was the puppy interview he did for BuzzFeed. He said that he had quit Wolverine and then Disney bought Fox, and he said, oh man, I can't believe that happened. And then he said he got the call and he was like, oh, I'm in, I'm back in.
Yeah. I think overall, like my closing thoughts, because I know we're getting up on time, but is a really solid movie. And I think with me, like my favorite Marvel movies are the Guardians movies and the Deadpool movies, which are, a part of all this, but sort of on their own little island and their own vibes and their own feelings. And I thought Sean Levy took what they did over at Fox and took it to a new level. And when you have the crutch of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine there, it gives you the confidence to do maybe more zany, wild things. And they certainly did. But I think every left turn they took, every right turn they took, and every time they went straight, they made all the right choices on all the forks that they could have went. So I'm really happy. I definitely need to see it again. But it lived up to the hype, because sometimes, you get the reactions out of these premieres and you're like, I don't know, because critics were saying Wonder Woman 84 was great. And then that movie came out. So I'm glad we saw
but the audience score of this was 97%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm glad we got to see it together. I'm glad we both enjoyed it, and it was definitely a fun time at the movies. So if you're like Lacey and I, we have kids, we have a lot going on in our lives, and you can only get to the movies a few times a year, I would say definitely go have fun watching Deadpool in the best, loudest theater room you can.
Yeah, we jokingly said before we saw this, we were like, "Should we see Twisters or should we see?" I
No.
am so glad we saw this instead. I feel like, first of all, I'm back and hip for a time period because I know what's going on because I've seen a movie when it just came out. Like, I haven't seen a movie at premiere weekend since Top Gun: Maverick. Like, I haven't
Few
seen.
years, yeah.
Yeah. I had an absolute blast watching this movie. I know everybody says that all the time. Oh, it's a blast. I had an amazing time watching this movie. I laughed nonstop. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The jokes hit so well. I loved that they weren't held back. Like they let Deadpool talk the way the character speaks. Like he says the most ridiculous, offensive things
Yeah.
when he talks about masturbating or whatever he says
Mhm.
in Tony's, like that was a shocking moment that I was like, oh, they went there. This is
Yeah.
a Disney movie. But it was so good. And like you said, John, like I need to see it again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it was definitely a fun Saturday morning to go see this movie. And like we said, it was
Great.
packed. We
Yeah.
were shocked. It was packed at 9:45 in the morning.
I could have left that theater with just being satisfied with Hugh Jackman's latest iteration of Wolverine, and it would have been enough for me. And the movie gave me a lot more, so I'm walking away happy from there. But yeah, so we want to know what you think. If you had a chance to see it yet, hopefully, if you watched the spoiler review, you have, or you just are crazy and you don't care about spoilers. But let us know what you think about our thoughts. Plenty more that we could dig into, but I feel like a half-hour review is pretty solid enough before you guys start going. But we got to get into some other news stories and the rest of the show. So let's get after that right now.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
Well, that was our thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. It was certainly a blast to get out of the house for a little bit and to see a movie in the movie theater with actual popcorn.
What else?
And to enjoy Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's relationship on screen, which has been building up for 6 years. So that was
What
nice.
else has been building up for 6 years?
This intro to this segment, apparently.
So, wasn't it nice to hang out with me?
Oh, yes. It was very fun to hang out with John. It was so glorious. Such a good time. Speaking of glorious, Glenn Powell was being interviewed by Josh Horowitz in New York City with Daisy Edgar Jones, I believe is her full name. The lovely romantic pair from Twisters was being interviewed as they continue their press tour by Josh Horowitz about all different types of stuff in their life. But specifically, he had asked them, are we going to get the Normal People continuation for Daisy or the Top Gun sequel first? And Glenn Powell said in so many words that he has a start date, so clearly his is first. And it was a little bit of a competitive thing between him and Daisy, like, clearly I won this question, not realizing what he said. So then Josh was like, immediately picked up on it and was like, oh yeah, what can you tell us? And he's like, that is it. That's all I'm saying.
He goes, move on to the next question.
Yeah, move on, because so that means it is happening. They have a start date. We're getting more Top Gun. John, are you pumped? Are you as pumped as I am?
I'm very pumped. I got you into the franchise. I turned you into a fan. Dragged you to the theater in Anaheim to see this
You
thing.
didn't. I went on my own.
You weren't a Top Gun fan, though.
I wouldn't say I'm a big Top Gun original movie fan. I would say I'm a huge Maverick fan.
So it makes me nervous on, like, we're on the same team right now, but it might just have been for the second one and not the franchise. But Tom Cruise, I mean, we've seen it with Mission Impossible. A lot of those movies for you can make the argument that they just kept getting bigger and better. So his legacy is important to him and everything. Like, I don't see Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie and this cast especially Glenn Powell, who seems to be very aware and conscious of the choices he's making and what he does with his characters. He likes them to be remembered. I love that about him. I can't see them messing this up. And they understand, obviously, how big the second one was, lightning in a bottle. I get people being nervous for it, but I am very excited for it. I'm happy they're making it. I think they are already set up for success with Glenn Powell's rising star, and then you got Tom Cruise back. And if you bring most of the players back, the only thing that might be a question mark for me is music. Lady Gaga comes in. Obviously, the first movie had its own legacy with its score, also its hits with Danger Zone and Take My Breath Away was a monster hit by Berlin. And then Gaga comes in, crushes it with Hold My Hand. Well, how do they match that for 3? Do they bring Gaga back? Do they go to someone else? That's the only thing I'm a little nervous about is the music. And people say, oh, it's just music. No, music makes that. I think Hold My Hand, how it was composed, and also the song itself really lifted a lot of scenes in that movie. So I think the music is going to be important. I hope they don't ignore that. That's my only doubt. Other than that, I am excited. I am happy, and I look forward to the fact that they're making this. And it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, we're waiting for Tom to be free. We're waiting. He's like, no, I have a date. And the fact that they have a date is like, they got something that
I don't think
they
he was
know.
supposed to let that slip, to be honest. He just was getting so competitive with it and
I love
joking
it.
around.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped about this too. We've been talking about a couple shows now about, will they, won't they? Talking about they have a script, they have a story, Tom's ready to go, he wants more. Producers talking about how they want more. I hope they bring on the same producing team / directing team, writers.
Joseph Kosinski, is he
He
going to
just did
direct?
Twisters. Yeah. So I hope he also does this because to me, just like the music, I think the writing is what sets it up. Because if you have bad writing, it doesn't, the story isn't there, the character development isn't there, the heart isn't there.
And don't kill Maverick.
Oh, please don't make this a thing where they kill every main character. We've already seen that for the past, I feel like, decade. Has been like, let's kill off every nostalgic character ever to start a fresh franchise. And you're like, okay, but those things that connect us to the originals are what make it magical. It's not, hey, let's erase everything and then start fresh. Like, that's not fun. Which reminds me, they announced that they're starting production on Jurassic Park soon too.
Oh yeah, and what's it? They have a title for it. Oh man,
Rebirth.
Oh. No, was that
Isn't it Jurassic Park Rebirth? I think it was.
Oh God.
Which I was like, oh, they're erasing everything.
All right, keep talking. I'm gonna find it just to be sure. You're probably right, but
I mean, I you guys know I love Glenn Powell. I think he's awesome. He's having a moment right now. He's quote the internet's boyfriend. He's the guy everybody's talking about. So I can't see him doing anything wrong with the roles that he's picking lately. And if he wants to make more money and stay in that kind of movie star limelight, Top Gun 3 is the movie. I don't think they expected Top Gun Maverick to do what it did in the movie theater. And the fact that it was nominated for an Oscar, like all this stuff, it's crazy. It was a phenomenon. And I hope that this one remains the same because I feel like oftentimes when they try to do a sequel, it doesn't match the energy of the first one. And I, more than not, have heard from people, including myself, that Maverick is better than the original.
That argument can absolutely be made, and it's 100%
Yes.
fair, and I think it's right. Speaking of right, you're right. It's called Jurassic World Rebirth.
Which I was like, oh, so they're erasing everything.
But it's still Jurassic World, which is interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. What also is interesting is we were actually just talking about Bob Odenkirk doing Nobody 2 and how pumped we were. Well, they added Sharon Stone to the cast. That was big news this week. It's set to come out in August of next year, August 15th, 2025. And she is playing the main villain opposite Bob Odenkirk. John, are you a Sharon Stone fan? I'm not the biggest fan of hers. I know everybody likes her and she's been in big roles. Like, what, Fatal Attraction, right? Is the movie that she's
Basic
from?
Instinct.
Basic Instinct. That's what it was. I knew it was
Yeah.
something similar to
Yeah,
Fatal
Fatal
Attraction.
Attraction was Glenn Close, I think.
Glenn Close, yeah. But yeah, are you a fan of hers? Are you excited to see her come back to the big screen?
I mean, I was late to the game with Basic Instinct, and obviously the famous scene where she shows her lady parts by uncrossing her legs while smoking a
Right.
cigarette
Not
while
wearing
being
underwear. Yeah.
interrogated. One of the most iconic moments in the last 30 years or whatever, 40 years of movies for sure. So she plays a great villain, and she's got to be in her like late 60s now.
She looks good.
Yeah, she looks great. And I don't like she's been around. Yeah, she's 66 and she's been around for so long and she's had so many great roles over the years and she's played villains really well and varying types of villains.
Mhm.
She's played manipulative villains, she's played serial killers, she played, moguls, and she's very good at being a villain. And the fact that nobody was the surprise hit, and Sharon Stone isn't, she's not lighting up the marquees the way she used to. So I like the fact that this movie that was an underdog movie with Bob Odenkirk putting everything into it became this big cult hit, a surprise hit. Critics loved it. People loved it. And people like out of nowhere, like real nobody. What is this?
I loved it. I
loved
was
it
someone
too.
that turned it on. Matt bought it and was like, "We should check this out." And I was like, "Okay, I guess." And I know he's on Better Call Saul and he loves that show.
Yeah.
But he turned it on. I was hooked. I was
Yeah.
hooked to this movie.
I enjoyed it too. So I'm liking the fact that people seeing Bob Odenkirk as like a badass, like they're probably like, no way, it's gonna be weird. He's a improvisational comedian. He's a Michael Scott type of actor or whatever, and then he just kills it in Nobody. And now they're giving Sharon Stone a chance to hop in here and do some stuff. So I like it. I'm excited about it. I'm gonna see it just solely because I love the first one. But I'm interested to see what type of villain, because like I said, she's played a multi-array of villains over the years. What type of villain we're looking at here for Nobody 2. So
Yeah, I can't wait to see where they go with this movie. The first one was so good. I hope it's like a Top Gun Maverick where it just builds on that story and gets even bigger and they have more of a budget and all this other stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
And speaking of which, I'm excited to see where this next movie goes because that's it for the news, right? We don't have anything else. So let's talk trailers.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
Lacey, trailer time. One big focus trailer this week, and that is the sequel to 2019's Joker. The creators, main actor, all returning: Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, and of course Lady Gaga, who we just talked about before, entering the mix here in what appears to be a musical, but it seems like it's going to. Did you see the first Joker?
I did not, but
Okay.
I understand who is.
Yeah, I don't want to
who.
spoil anything.
It's
but-
also written by Scott Silver, who wrote the first one, and he
Yeah, they
also
got the
wrote The
whole team
Fighter.
back.
Yeah, they brought everybody back. Yep.
So in the first one, without really spoiling anything, we see his imagination of how real things are happening. He has this theatrical version of it in his mind.
Sure.
In this movie, it looks like they're doing a musical. So we're going to see all of these things that are happening, probably from a violent perspective, with this musical tinge to it. And she's a part of that as this Harley Quinn, this new version of Harley Quinn.
Which
and
makes sense because it's Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Like he won an Oscar for this. I think she's going to get nominated for an acting Oscar for this. And I'm excited to see it because
You won an Oscar for this? I forget.
he won the best actor for this.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And he did the whole tribute to his brother and stuff. It was like a sweet moment.
That's right.
So even though it is a popular IP because it's a character everyone knows, to me Joker was an original shot at something. You're not there, there was no Batman in it. There was a light reference to Bruce Wayne. In this one, they're going for it again. And Joaquin Phoenix doesn't do sequels. Todd Phillips had reservations, but it made so much money and it was so overly successful from critics, audience, and financial. All 3 boxes checked. They had to do it. But it seems like they have their own fresh spin to it. Adding Harley Quinn into it adds another fresh element. So I plan to try to see this in theaters. If not, and I can't, I'm still going to be vested in finding it as soon as I can to see it. And I think we are genuinely looking at, hopefully, like people like Daisy Ridley and Lady Gaga showing up for nominations for their respective movies this year, next year, because I'm not a big awards person, but people I'm fans of that maybe don't always get in with those, I tend to root for those people. So.
Yeah, Daisy Ridley's already getting Oscar buzz for The Young Woman in the Sea, so that's really cool to see, if you will. Yeah, this trailer was interesting. Like I said, I didn't see the first one, so I'm coming in with a different perspective just because I wasn't like a huge fan of that movie. But it's hard to not pay attention when Joaquin Phoenix is on the screen. Like he just has that kind of commanding performance that immediately when he's in on something, you're like, oh, okay, like this must be a crazy role if he's doing it. And the same goes with Lady Gaga. Anything she's in, you immediately are like, that's Lady Gaga. Imagine being that powerful or that famous in the world that you immediately are known as like this person.
Yeah.
And that's who she is. And she commands, her space on screen. She's proven she's an actress from all the roles that she's done so far. We all know she's musically talented from her huge musical career, which is still occurring today. I think she's going to make it very special, in addition to what already the whole team and Joaquin Phoenix brings to the table. But I think this movie is interesting to people like myself that maybe we're not interested in the first one, but love Lady Gaga, will go see this one because she's in it. I think she carries just as much popularity, if not more, with most people than Joaquin Phoenix. I loved how vivid it was, such bright colors. It's like the music is this whole different element. We were just talking about how important music is for movies, and this is no different, especially when you're going to show it as being a musical. But yeah, this has Oscars written all over it. Like it's not your typical comic book movie. It's a different take on it.
Yeah, and the first one like garnered such success at the box office because you had people telling people they shouldn't go see this movie. And what is the biggest mistake if you're a parent to tell your kids not to do something? They're gonna be like, oh, I want to do that now. And like teenage boys were like, they don't want us to go see this shoot 'em up stuff. I'm going. And they all went and they all saw it and it made a ton of freaking money.
And it was just a different take we've never seen on the Joker.
Yeah, it definitely is. Way delving deep into the psychology of mental health, and it is heavy duty for sure. And
it's also interesting, as I was watching the trailer, if you didn't know that this character was like a Batman villain, you wouldn't know that. Like it's not shot like that. It's not presented like that. It's very much presented to me, even with the title sequence, as like an art house film.
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely has that indie feel to it. And also you see them kiss in the trailer, so it's not the will they won't they. It's like, no, like she's gonna be obsessed with this dude,
and
that's how Harley Quinn rolls. So I'm interested. I think a lot of big things are gonna come out of that movie, so we will see. But a very beautifully shot trailer, and I'm sure that's just a precursor to a good looking movie.
It's probably gonna have a banging soundtrack too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And
could win Grammys.
If it has the Oscar buzz, they're gonna perform one of the songs on the stage at the Oscars, all that stuff. If the Academy, lets Todd Phillips get that sort of overall acclaim. But that's it for trailers. I know there were some other things that came out. There was a new trailer for the new Transformers. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet. But we will maybe get to that next week. But why don't we get to what we're watching?
We can never leave the house and would just probably sit around all weekend and watch TV.
Go on.
So I watched a couple different things, very different things this past week. First of all, new season Too Hot to Handle on Netflix, which is I would say, I hate saying this, but it's a guilty pleasure. I love stupid shows like this. It's a dating show where you have super hot people that like can't, how do I say this politely, interact with one another. They're not allowed to kiss or make out or do anything.
They can't handle
further.
it.
Yes, they can't. It's a show that's supposed to take like serial daters and make them form more emotional attachments to one another. Like, hey, you're a player. Don't be a player anymore. Like, actually have a relationship with someone. Get to know them. Like, be more than surface level. But these people just sabotage each other for money, and it's ridiculous. But man, is it entertaining. And they did the first part of the series on Netflix, so I binged that one night, folding some laundry. And it was entertaining. The other thing I watched was, I had brought this up a couple weeks ago, that I loved the Homicide New York, which was done by Dick Wolf, who also does Law and Order. He's now done an LA version about all these murders and homicides in the Los Angeles area with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And it is so good. It's beautifully shot. The interviews are great. It's compelling. It's top of the line true crime docuseries, which is right up my alley. So I am a couple episodes into that, and it was very good. And then finally, I watched the Hot Ones episode with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in preparation to watch Deadpool. And
Which we watched Deadpool. Obviously, it was you just saw the review.
Yes, we watched Deadpool. Yes. But to watch the Deadpool thing, we also watched Hot Ones, and I have to tell you, it was up there as one of my favorite Hot Ones that I've ever watched. I was openly laughing out loud so hard at not Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. There was something about Ryan Reynolds, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way now, is he always seems like he's putting on a bit. Like, it doesn't seem as genuine.
Yeah.
It seems like he's trying to come up with lines and like kind of be the wisecrack guy. Like, I've got a joke for everything. Whereas Hugh Jackman's literally having a mental breakdown on screen over this hot sauce. And he seems so wonderful and friendly and soft and genuine that you just want to kind of be like, hey man, I got you some milk. Here you go, bud.
I texted you.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm watching this Hot Ones right now. Hugh Jackman is on full tilt.
He was losing it.
Because there was a point where, like, Sean, like, he will just keep asking the question.
He's great at his job. He is a great interviewer.
They do that like echo thing to tell the audience that this person is struggling. And Hugh Jackman is like,
and they start to do a blur too, like
he's like, I think I'm in serious trouble here.
He kept taking huge bites. I was like, why are you taking huge bites?
I think he thought he was like dying, and then he takes the
like,
towel.
My heartbeat. He goes, my heart is beating so hard right now.
Yeah, and the dude's like 55 years old.
He's shaking, eating these chicken.
He eats the full bowl of ice cream.
Yeah.
He was he seemed very real. Whereas I agree, Ryan Reynolds felt like it's
towards the end, it seemed more genuine because he was not putting on a bit. He was actually
talking about their friendship,
just reacting to what he was going through. So there was no filter of, hey, I got to make a joke out of this. I got to make a joke out of this.
Yeah.
It was just, hey, I'm being me. And to me, that's when the episode got even better, about halfway through, like bottle 5, because that's when Hugh was having his breakdown. Ryan's being more like, I don't know, himself. Like, he wasn't doing like, hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds and I'm telling jokes. It was so funny. I'd go back and watch it again, honestly.
When he had them doing the Australia or Canada, like, you could tell when they started that bit, Hugh didn't hear a word he said. He was just
holding.
He was struggling, and then Ryan Reynolds was definitely struggling towards the end. And he even like started looking a little unattractive, which was nice to see.
Oh my God, which one?
Ryan Reynolds.
I was gonna say Hugh Jackman looked great the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly dyes it. He clearly dyes his hair, but
even with his pits, he was like, "Look at my sweaty pits."
Do you know what's funny about that? We were doing a TRB show not that long ago, and I was definitely wearing an old shirt that had like sweat stains, and I wasn't sweating in that moment.
You know
But
what? Everybody sweats, guys.
someone in the comment goes, "It's called deodorant, John." And I'm just it's like people are so mean. I laughed at how mean the person was. I was like, "Thank you for watching my Star Wars podcast," and then pointing out my old ass shirt. But
First of all, everybody sweats. Second of
yeah.
all, like, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah. I shower, I use deodorant. I'm a pretty clean, non-smelly person. Leave me alone.
Nothing bothers
But
me unless you smell.
yeah. Do I smell?
No,
Oh, thank God.
that's like a fear of mine. I've told you that before. Dirty
Smelling?
hair and smelling is like my
Mm,
fear.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if a bird flies in your head, your hair is gonna be pretty dirty.
Okay.
Um,
People aren't going to
that's
get that unless they're a patron.
unless you're a patron of ours and you watched our Q&A, things got wild. There might have been a bird homicide. There might not have been.
Dun,
But
dun.
anyway,
These are
that
their
hot ones.
stories.
I love the hot ones. I thought that was a great episode. I don't know how far I would get on those shows because you know me, I don't really do spicy.
There
So
was a Millie Bobby Brown episode where she was doing chocolate milk and chicken nuggets, and I was like, "Yo, girl, I'm right with you." And her and I share a birthday, so I felt like it was like I was doing it. That would
yeah.
be me. The chicken nuggets with the chocolate milk.
Oh, but
Jennifer Lawrence had root beer. I was like, I'd be doing that too.
Didn't Millie Bobby Brown? Isn't she like a vegetarian? Didn't she do like cauliflower or something?
Did she do vegan nuggets?
I don't know. Maybe I might have just made that up.
I don't know. You know what? Sabrina Carpenter did it recently too, and I wanted to watch hers to see how far she got because people don't realize like Gordon Ramsay did that, and he was just like, "Oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
dying." One of the best ones was him. My favorites are Gordon Ramsay, Bill Burr, and Charlize Theron were the best top 3 for me.
All right, I gotta watch the Charlize one.
She gets like livid.
Oh, really?
She's like, "Why would you do this?" Like,
Did you see Conan?
Conan's great. Okay,
That's my favorite
in
of all
top
time.
5. He's in
Yeah.
top. He was. You have to respect that Conan O'Brien is the type of comedian that even if he's in pain, he will commit to the bit and stick through. He was drinking sauces, like rubbing it all over his shirt, like just ridiculous because that's who Conan is. He'll just
And I know
commit.
he was being jokingly inspirational, but I was inspired.
He seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he does.
Like I would be so sad if it ever came out that he was a terrible person.
I mean, there are some people that if I found out they were horrible, like it would just crush me.
He's one of them, I think.
Like yeah, like if I found out, like if it turned out like Mr. Rogers was like a bad guy, that would like
Yeah.
I would lose
Robin
all
Williams.
faith in humanity. Yeah,
Robin Williams is another
I mean,
one.
Robin Williams had his demons, but he seemed like a good, really good-hearted guy.
He was a very nice person, though.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever said he was a mean guy.
No, just a cokehead for a little while back in his stand-up days.
I mean, at least he admitted it at some point.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm not trying to joke. Like substance abuse and addiction is very real, and he dealt with it and he got through it. But yeah, he's another one. He's an all-timer. But I also saw, I don't know if this counts as watching, but I saw Blink-182, one of my favorite bands from back in the day, and they're still putting out new music, still crushing it, and that's inspiring in itself too, seeing these guys been doing this for over 30 years and still being at the top of their game. And you know, Mark Hoppus had cancer, he got over that. Travis Barker
Didn't Travis just have a baby?
they just had one, or yeah, I think whether it's close. I think you're right. I think they just had a baby, but he survived a plane crash. Tom had left the band. It's like the fact that the 3 of them realized about what really matters and got back together is what means the most. And it's really cool to see them back together, and it was a good time. So that's that for what we're watching. And that's it, right?
Yeah. That, you know what's funny? Bringing up Blink-182, but off air we were talking about middle schoolers nowadays. Spoiler alert, they say crazy things like skibbity toilet and whatnot. It's what we were talking about off air. Blink-182 is middle school for me.
Nice.
That was middle school. Because you were asking, you're like, oh, what did you say in middle school? I was like, not really. We were just, dances and stuff like that. When that came on at dances, it was like a huge deal. Blink-182.
That was high school for me.
It's because you're old. Just kidding.
Don't forget, you know, it's right around the corner.
I know. It's all fun and games until your back hurts from sneezing.
Listen, this has been a good time. I hope everyone enjoyed our review of Deadpool and Wolverine. I hope everybody enjoyed the movie in their own way. And I hope you were enjoying our podcast. You know, thank you very much for the people who have come over from the Resistance broadcast and wanted to listen to us talk about all the other stuff we love in the nerd space. Or if you just found us, however, we just ask if you don't mind, make sure you subscribe to the show because it's on its own platform. The video version is on the TRB YouTube channel, of course, but the audio is on its own platform. So if you could follow us there and rate us and tell a friend, spread the word. You know, that's how TRB grew. So we hope to do the same for Nerdy and Nice because we would like the opportunity to attend events for a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine and stuff like that. And the only way we could do it is your support and listening to the show, telling people about it, sharing it online. I mean, clip out our show if you want and post a clip that you think's funny or whatever. Any way you could support us, including Patreon, of course. Thank you. It means a lot to us. So, and speaking of Patreon, make sure you're heading over to patreon.com/TRB podcasts. We have exclusive mini episodes in the world of Nerdy and Nice on there, as well as all our stuff for the Resistance broadcast. A great Discord server. We're going to be putting new channels in soon that affiliate with all these other cool genres and things we love. So check it out. Tiers start at $5, and the support goes a long way. So thank you. And a special thank you to our movie star generals: Carmelo, John Risi, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Rumore, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, Colin Cormier, and Stephen Garrow. And our silver screen spice runners: David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and THEFORTWORTHIAN. And everybody who supports TRB in all of our ventures, whether that's Nerdy and Nice, the Resistance broadcast, or anything else we got going on. Thank you. For me, Johnny Hoey on X, my movie pod, Just Like the Movies. We just put out one on Spinal Tap. And we're doing Good Will Hunting next, which was one of my favorite movies of all time. But Lacey, how about you? Where can people hit you up to ask you about what it was like hanging out with me on Saturday morning?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran, on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran, where I'll talk about how I once again saw the Bavarian Legend in person.
Yeah, this is going to be a big deal. Did you get that when we went to Solo? I don't remember. Because
No,
obviously when we went to like Rise of Skywalker, we didn't.
no,
So
I
this is
think
gonna
I
be
just
my
got a popcorn.
first. We got to make some pretzel content, I think.
Welcome
What if
to
we-
our channel.
what
It's
if we get-
pretzel content all
we
the
get
time.
Two Bavarian, because no one's going to be in that theater. So
You keep
not-
saying that. There's like 30 people in the theater with us.
I mean, overall in the building, like if we
Okay.
got two Bavarians and tried to roll one down the hallway to see how far it went, that type
oh
of
my
stuff.
God, what a waste of food. Don't do that.
I'll eat it after.
They do have, so I'm one of those people that will look at menus before I go somewhere to like see what they have. I totally looked up to see what snacks are at AMC, and right now they have a Hawaiian roll pretzel nubs, like sweet Hawaiian roll, you know, the
Oh,
King's
yeah.
Hawaiian. They
Mhm.
make those, but pretzel bites. And I looked at them and I was like, I gotta get those.
I might take an edible before this movie then.
I was like, I need these. I need pretzel bites.
Well, it should, yeah. Oh wait, we already went. We had a great time. All right.
Spoiler
thank-
alert.
yeah,
We're filming this before we
Thank you, everybody, so much. We'll be back with you next Monday for another episode of Nerdy and Nice. And this week for TRB Wednesday, because I have to go into the city for my day job. So I need you to support the podcast so I don't have to have a day job. But anyway, all jokes aside, thank you all so much for all your support. We'll see you Star Wars fans Wednesday night and all the rest of you nerds next week right here on Nerdy and Nice. So from me and Lacey, until next time, see you around, kids.